Hello, everyone. I'm so excited for you guys to join me today. So, I know that some of you have already been on some kind of healing journey, or maybe you found yourself stuck, or maybe you're just feeling like something's missing, or maybe you've never heard or dealt with healing at all, right? But all of this is going to change today. Because today I want to dive into what healing really is about. So it's not about quick fixes, it's not about the surface level techniques, but it is about the deeper process of transformation, right? And this masterclass isn't about giving you the perfect steps to healing. I would rather that it's about helping you understand what healing really looks like, whether that's emotionally, whether that's mentally, or even spiritually, and how you can really start to create that internal shift. Because at the end of the day, that's what counts, right? That's the end goal. That we're making that shift, that we're transforming, that we're changing, that we're evolving, right? So we're gonna explore the true meaning of healing. Ignore any background noise. I'm having very thin walls, so, and I cannot cut that out. But anyways, we're going to explore the true meaning of healing. So awareness, acceptance, release, rewriting our inner beliefs, rewiring our mind, and all of these things, right? And these are the foundations of deep healing work. And by the end of today, you will have a better understanding of where to begin and how to deepen your own journey. Okay? So let's begin by redefining something we all think we know, which is obviously healing. And when I ask, what is healing? Many people respond with something like, oh, it's about getting better, or it's about moving on from pain, or it's fixing what's broken. And while these definitions aren't completely wrong, they don't fully capture the heart of what healing truly is, at least to me, right? So I want to invite you to think of healing in a new way. And healing isn't just the process of recovering from pain, from trauma, from emotional wounds. For me, it's about really returning to yourself. Okay. It's about coming home to the parts of you that have been abandoned, that have been ignored, that have been buried under the weight of life's experiences. The parts of you that you've demonized, right? That you and others have rejected and deemed as not good, because those are often your greatest assets. And I speak about that quite a lot in one of my other masterclasses, which is healing codes. But my point is, it's about coming home to yourself. And that's why it's my slogan. It's coming home to your core self. So, who you are underneath all of those programs, underneath all of the conditionings, the limits, the influences, etc., right? But here's the thing that a lot of people don't get is healing is not linear. It's not something you achieve and then move on from. Healing is a whole cycle. It's a journey that doesn't have a finish line, okay? Keep that in mind. That's one of the main takeaways from today is that healing is a journey that doesn't have a finish line. And there will be times when you feel like you've made incredible progress, and then something may trigger you and you find yourself back in the same emotional space, back at square one. But here's the truth that I want you to take away today is that that's okay. And it will keep happening, especially in the beginning, okay? That doesn't mean that you failed at healing. It doesn't mean that anything about you. It just means that you're human. All right? We're all human at the end of the day. And real healing is about learning how to navigate these cycles where we're down with more grace, with more compassion, and with understanding. Because let's be honest, it's not all about love and light, right? I get the ick when I hear about that. I just cannot do it. Ugh. It's a lie that the masses have been pushing for way too many years now, and a lot still believe in it. And I get the chills just speaking about it because it's such bullshit, right? So let me tell you something. And that's the reason why healing is not linear either, is in life, you have got to think of it like a roller coaster. It has its ups and it has its downs, right? But in order to have your ups, you have got to have the downs as well. It is delusional to expect only ups in life, only positive vibes, no negative vibes, and love and light and no negativity and all that crap. I mean, think about it. How can you have ups without downs? Like, literally, it's just gonna be a straight line, right? It doesn't work. You need to have the bad times in order to really appreciate, enjoy, but also elevate higher during the good times. I mean, you have heard of some of the greatest achievers out there. They all come from the trenches, from nothing, from an unimportant space, from being overlooked people, places, you name it. But they rose above it. Because as low as their lows were, as high their highs are now. And you can get there as well. You have just got to accept it, okay? Because healing, confidence, self-trust, self-belief, your higher self, and so on, all of these concepts and traits you want to reach for, their solidity isn't determined during the good times, during the ups. Their solidity is determined during the lows, right? All of those aspects, they are tested during the lows. I do not give a crap how confident you are when your life is amazing. I want to see where your confidence is at when your life is shit, when life is miserable, when you fail at something, when you lose your job, when you lose your money, when you lose stuff, when you lose all of it. Where is it in that moment? It has to be solid right then and there. It's about how you navigate the lows, which tells me who you are, right? Is your self-belief gone the minute things become hard? Or is your confidence gone the minute someone insults you or criticizes you? Is your trust gone as soon as your partner doesn't reply to you for several hours? That's a common one. Are you unhealed again and fall into old patterns just because something triggered you? If your answer is yes, you need this work more than you realize. You are not really confident. I hate to break it to you. You are not really secure in yourself. You are not your best self. You are not rising to your highest potential if your answer was yes to at least one of them. And even if there hasn't been an answer where you said no, I'm sure there is. And some of you probably are very triggered right now. That's okay. Just breathe, sit with it, feel it, right? Because this is the time that you put in the work. This isn't the only time you're going to feel this way. This also isn't the first time that you felt that way, I'm sure. You've been triggered before. But you're going to learn each time how to navigate it better. Each time you're triggered and you have to work through it, it becomes easier, it becomes quicker if you put in the work. Okay? Now, another thing you need to hear is that healing is a journey, right? As I've said, there is no finish line. It's not a destination. So, one of the biggest misconceptions about healing is that it's something you arrive at. As if one day you will wake up and suddenly be free of all the pain and challenges and wounds you've been carrying, right? We're all waiting for that one day. But healing is not about arriving somewhere perfect. So it's not a state of, I'm healed and now I'll never feel pain again. Okay? Not even the spiritual gurus that you see out there that are all about that love and light crap. That's not how it works. So anyone who might have told you that, I'm sorry to break it to you, but they were lying to benefit from you. All right? Because it's not true. Healing, again, ignore the background sounds. Healing is a lifelong journey. It's a process of peeling back layers of an onion, right? Layer after layer of your emotional, mental, and spiritual self. And as you go deeper, you begin to realize that healing doesn't mean you'll never face challenges again. It just means you'll become stronger, you'll become more resilient and better equipped to handle those challenges when they come. Okay, because they are gonna come. Or another example would be I don't know if you know them, but the Matryoshka dolls, those, you know, those as those Russian nesting dolls, where with each layer where each layer contains a smaller doll inside, right? So you open them up at half, and then there's a smaller doll inside. And each one reveals a new, more refined aspect of yourself, right? Think about it like that. Until you reach the innermost, most authentic version, your core self, right? Until you have dug so deep that you reach your core self again, who you really are. So think about healing as a spiral. So not a straight line, but sometimes you'll revisit old wounds or patterns. But each time you do, you're approaching them from a different level of awareness and strength. So you're actually not going backward, even though it might feel like that in a moment, but you're just revisiting these experiences so that you can heal from them more deeply and fully than before. You know, sometimes you have aspects where you just need to work on it once and integrate the change, integrate being better, integrate a new belief, whatever it is in that moment. And then you're done on that aspect. But then there are other aspects, deeper ones, deeper trauma that you need to revisit more often, right? It just depends. Sometimes you don't even need to find out where it came from, you just change the behavior, right? So healing really is about returning to yourself. And one of the most important aspects of healing that I want you to understand is that healing is about returning to the essence of who you are. So over time, life happens, right? Pain happens, and we start to disconnect from parts of ourselves. That's kind of how we lose ourselves while we're growing up. So we build these walls, we suppress emotions, we put on masks to protect ourselves from getting hurt again. But in doing so, we think we're protecting ourselves, but we actually move further away from our true self. So, how can we be safe if we're losing ourselves? And healing is the process of reclaiming those lost parts of ourselves. Okay, so the parts that have been neglected, the parts that have been forgotten, the parts that have been suppressed. It's about bringing love and compassion to the parts of us that we've pushed away because they were too painful to face. It's about embracing every aspect of who we are, the light and the shadow, because there's both. As I said, there's not just love and light. We have shadows as well, and understanding that all of it is necessary for our growth. Just like the ups and downs in life, we have light and shadows. So when we talk about healing, we're not talking about fixing yourself because you were never broken. Okay, we're talking about remembering who you are underneath all of the layers of pain, of conditioning, of social expectations, of influences, right? Because you are whole, you are worthy, and healing is about reconnecting with that truth. Because I'm sure many of you right now do not believe that. Do not believe that you're worthy, that you deserve it. Or maybe you think you do, but your environment, your circumstances, your true beliefs in your subconscious say otherwise. Your actions say otherwise. Your thoughts say otherwise. And that is how you can find out if you really believe it or not. Now, I want to share a quick story from my own journey. So, for years, I carried around this idea that I wasn't good enough, right? And I wasn't even fully aware that I had this belief. It was just something running in the background of my mind, affecting how I showed up in friendships, in relationships, at work, in school, and especially how I spoke to myself. Every time I made a mistake, I was hard on myself, and I thought it was the end of the world. Okay, I thought, shit, I fucked up, I beat myself up for it, I overthought it, all the things, right? And every time something didn't go the way I planned, I would blame myself, thinking, of course, it didn't work out. It's because I'm not good enough. And not only did I think that about myself, I was convinced that everybody around me thought that about myself in those moments too, which made it worse, right? Because I didn't just feel like a failure to myself, I felt like a failure to everybody. I felt like I let everybody down. But through the process of healing, through becoming more aware and doing the inner work and all of those things for years, I started to see that this belief wasn't the truth of who I was. I was acting in accordance to it, but it wasn't who I was at my core. It was a belief I had picked up from past experiences, and it was preventing me from living in alignment with my true self. And while those things are not to blame, it's my responsibility. It doesn't matter where I got it from, it doesn't matter who I got it from. It's my responsibility to change. So once I became aware of it, I was able to start releasing it, right? Again, layer by layer. And that's what healing does. It peels back the layers of old beliefs, of old habits, of wounds, so you can live more freely, more authentically. And it doesn't happen from one day to another. Again, I was not confident, secure in myself from one day to another. It's been years. And yes, I am confident, I am secure, but I'm still not at the level I really want to be, right? So with deep beliefs like this, it usually takes some time. It usually takes practice to rewire yourself and show yourself that it's not true, right? Again, also here, a key point, time doesn't heal all wounds. It's the practice, it's the work that does over time. Okay? And another thing I want to talk about is that when it comes to healing, it requires compassion. Okay. Again, it's not about perfection, it requires compassion. So, too often we approach healing with the mindset of, I need to fix everything that's wrong with me. But healing isn't about perfection, it's not about erasing your past or becoming some idealized version of yourself, right? It's about learning to love and accept yourself right there, right now, with all your imperfections, with all your flaws and wounds. Because if we were to erase our past, we would erase who we are now. We would erase who we have become. And again, that would be going backwards, right? You would unlearn all the lessons you have learned so far. So you don't want to do that. You want to meet it with compassion, with love, with acceptance, or with critique if it's something negative about yourself, because we've all done things that we wish we didn't, or that we regret, or that we are not proud of. But we can meet that with compassion as well and do better next time. Change our behavior for the better. Heal ourselves to meet it with more love and compassion. Okay? So again, healing requires deep self-compassion. It asks you to be kind to yourself, even when you're struggling, as I've just said. Even when you feel like you are not making progress, even when you make mistakes, it's about giving yourself the same grace and understanding that you would give to somebody else that you love, right? Because we're not going to somebody else and bash them when they're down. So why are we doing it to ourselves? And compassion allows you to soften. It gives you the permission to release the harsh inner critic that tells you you should be over this by now. Why can't you just move on? Healing requires that you meet yourself exactly where you are. And instead of judging yourself for being behind or for being broken, you gently just guide yourself forward with love. Okay? Because again, we don't want to go backwards, we want to go forward. But on another note, though, I feel like a lot of people take this the complete wrong way, and this is where it goes sideways. So I have to mention this. No, wait, let me take that back. That was a projection. I just want to preface that by giving yourself grace and freeing yourself of the harsh inner critic, it doesn't mean that you let shit slide. Okay? It doesn't mean that you can do some toxic shit and then be like, oh, it's okay, I didn't mean that. That was because of that trauma, or that was because I have daddy issues, or mommy issues, or that's because I have abandonment issues. Completely deflecting from the fact that, yeah, it's been 4 years since you guys broke up. Yes, you should have moved on by now. That is all on you, okay? It's not about releasing responsibility and not taking things serious and giving yourself the space to fuck around. It's simply about not bashing yourself for every toxic and bad shit you did. It's simply not letting the harsh inner critic beat you down and tell you you're not good enough, okay? But rather, let it criticize you. Criticize yourself about what you could have done better. Let it demand more of yourself from that moment, okay? And that is supposed to be normal. That's not harsh. That's supposed to be normal. You should hold yourself accountable. Yes, you should have moved on from your ex if you've been broken up for 4 to 5 years. It's it's time, girl. Don't waste your time, okay? But at the same time, meet yourself where you're at. Don't just go, okay, I'm over it, because you're not. So don't just be aware that yes, it's time. Move on, stop your shit. But on the same page, be like meet it with compassion. Okay? Be gentle to yourself. Be like, okay, I could have done better, so I'm gonna do better now. Okay? It is supposed to be normal to demand more of yourself. Not perfection, but there's nothing wrong with striving for excellence, with striving for more, with striving to be better. Otherwise, you will always stay in your comfort zone, which results in no growth and you getting and remaining stuck. Okay. So you need to pick and choose your moment on when you just need self-compassion, some love, okay? And when you actually need to pull your shit together, yourself together, and be like, no, I need to do better. No, that was wrong of me. I take accountability. I apologize if somebody else was involved. But still, in both cases, and that's my point, you need to lead with being aware of your actions and behaviors and taking self-responsibility and accountability. And in both cases, you meet yourself with self-compassion. Okay? Just sometimes you need to be harsher than other times. Okay? Now, again, healing means also letting go of the need for control. So we often approach healing with the mindset of if I just do X, Y, and Z, then I'll be healed and life will be perfect again. But again, healing isn't something you can control or force or rush. You cannot rush healing, just like you cannot force a flower to bloom before it's ready, right? It happens in its own time and it requires patience. So when you try and control your healing, you create resistance. You try to make everything look neat and tidy, but true healing is messy, right? It's raw and it requires you to be vulnerable and surrender to the process, even when you don't know exactly where it's leading you, right? So letting go of control also means allowing yourself to feel what needs to be felt instead of trying to think your way out of emotions. Okay, because sometimes we try to intellectualize our healing process, thinking that if we just understand everything, we'll be able to fix it. But that's just your ego, which is deflecting again. Okay, healing doesn't happen in your mind alone. Healing happens in your subconscious mind, in your heart, in your whole body, and in your soul. And time heals all wounds might be one of the most shittiest and most misleading quotes I've ever heard because you do not heal by doing nothing and letting time pass. I mean, that's what you've done so far. Isn't that evidence enough? That's what everybody keeps doing. Don't you see it? It does not work. It's complete crap. And I'll tell you what happens when you let time play out. The wound will become deeper. You will shove it deeper into your subconscious. You don't touch it. You put it in a box and lock it far away into a closet. You might forget about it, or at least try to, but it's not going to be gone. It's still there, just hidden away, just a little further away. So time doesn't do shit. This is why so many people are fucked up, because they sit around, turn in Luxembourgish. I'm from Luxembourg. In Luxembourg, we say you're just sitting there rolling your thumbs, you know? You're just sitting there staring at the ceiling. Time doesn't do shit. Okay? So that's why, again, that's why so many people are fucked because they sit around hoping things will get better. But like Einstein said, insanity is when people keep doing the same shit but expect different results. Can you see it? It's toxic and it's self-destructive, and it only leads to more self-sabotage because hurt people keep hurting people, even if they don't do it intentionally. Sometimes you are not even aware of it, what damage you are doing right now to other people with your advice, with your thoughts, with your words, with your actions, whatever it is. Especially people like celebrities, people seem to think they have a certain responsibility of being somebody that they want them to be. So if they're hurt, if they're not healed, and they don't do some cooked shit, you're looking up to that. You think, oh, they are a role model, and you copy them. See the hurt people without even realizing it sometimes. And then there's others, obviously, that do it intentionally. But if you heal, you empower other people, you uplift them, right? You inspire them to be better too. And that should be the ultimate goal. And that is what I want to reach with my work. That is my purpose, is to help other people heal. I know that in my core. So I do it with love. That is why this masterclass is free, because that should be free knowledge, right? Now, on another note, one of the most frustrating parts of healing is the idea that we should always be moving forward, right? Always making progress. But in reality, even if we're not, if we should not move backwards, in reality, healing doesn't work that way though. Like I said, it's a spiral. And you may find yourself revisiting old wounds, old patterns, old emotions that you thought you had already healed. Like I said before, sometimes it takes multiple times. And that's okay. But it shouldn't be like this forever. Okay? It happens, but it shouldn't be an ongoing thing. And the truth is, I'll mention it again, healing happens in cycles. And you will move forward, and then something will trigger you, and you may feel like you've gone backwards, right? But every time you revisit a wound, you're approaching it from a deeper level of awareness. So you're peeling back another layer and healing it more fully, right? Like I said before, you meet it again with new awareness and with new strength. So when you feel like you're back at square one, remember that you're not, okay? You're revisiting this experience from a higher perspective. And this time, might have more tools, you might have more awareness, more strength. Healing is not a straight line. Remember that. And believe me, there was a time in my own journey when I thought I had healed a particular wound from my past, something I had been working on for years. And for a while, I felt really good, like I had finally moved past it. But then something triggered me, and all of those old feelings came rushing back. Okay? And I think most of you can relate to it in a way of when it's about love. You think you've moved on, but then something happens and you're like, oh, oh shit, I'm still hung up on them, right? I think that might be the easiest thing to relate to. So it was something in that regards. And at first, I was frustrated, right? It annoyed the shit out of me. I thought, I'm already healed. Why the fuck am I feeling like this again? But then I realized that healing isn't about never feeling pain again. Okay? It's about learning how to navigate that pain with more grace each time it shows up. And that's when I came to the realization that it's not all love and light. It's not all positivity and moving on, and then you will never deal with this shit again, and then it will all be rainbows and unicorns because shit is coming back. The downs are coming back. They will always be there. The shadows will always be there, but it's about how you learn to navigate through these times. It's about how you show up for yourself during those times. And once you've sat with it, once you've felt it deeply, once you've figured out what's going on and what you need in order to move forward, that's when the healing comes, right? Once you've learned how to properly deal with those times, that's when the healing comes. So, to help you reinforce the concept of healing as a journey right now, I want you to take out a pen and paper or your journals, whatever you want to write in on, because I have at each section that we're talking about today, I have a few questions that I want you to ask yourself and answer for yourself. So you can pause the video after them and just reflect on them, all right? So the first one is, where have you been expecting yourself to be healed or perfect by now? Where have you been expecting yourself to be healed or perfect by now? And what would it feel like to release that pressure and just allow yourself to be in the process? Okay. The second one, think about a time when you revisited an old wound, if you've ever done that. How did you approach it differently than you had in the past? And what did it teach you about the cyclical nature of healing? So that healing is a cycle. What did it teach you about that? So if you've never approached an old wound before, you can start now and then ask yourself the question. And if you've approached it, but you see that there's no difference in your approach, there you have your first work to do. Okay. Now, let's talk about my very first pillar of healing, which is awareness. And awareness is the first step to healing because it allows us to recognize what we've been avoiding. Okay? You cannot heal what you are not aware of. You cannot change a pattern or a belief that you don't even realize is there. It's like trying to clean a room in the dark, right? You cannot fix what you cannot see. So often, we go through life on autopilot. We react to things without truly understanding why, right? And maybe you find yourself getting triggered by certain situations. Maybe you get triggered by the information I am giving you right now, or maybe you notice patterns repeating in your relationships or behaviors. These are all signs that there's something deeper going on, right? Something beneath your surface is going on. And we get triggered by something, or we feel overwhelmed. But instead of looking inward, we either try to push those feelings away, distract ourselves, or blame external circumstances. And this is considered normal. Do you think that's normal? It's what we've been taught, right? Suppress, move on, and get over it. But it's not normal to do that. When you could just speed up the process and be aware in the moment so you can immediately change for the better, right? Wouldn't that just be easier? So I want you to think about awareness like a flashlight. Imagine that your mind and emotions are a dark room, and awareness is the light you shine to see what's inside, right? So you might not look, you might, so you might not like everything you see in that room. There might be old, painful memories or emotions that you've kept locked away for years. Like I said, we always put it in a box and store it away and hope we'll never see it again, right? But it's still there, even if we cannot see it. But once you've turned that light on, you cannot ignore them anymore, right? You see them. And that's where healing begins. It's just shining a light on them, so you cannot ignore them. So they're right in your face. It's about observing your thought, emotions, behaviors without judgment, right? You create the opportunity to process those emotions and let go of what's been holding you back. And again, this isn't about trying to fix yourself immediately. It's about learning to sit with what you're feeling and understanding where those feelings come from. And while you don't always need to go back into childhood memories and search where oh my gosh. And while it's not about going back into childhood memories every time and search where this specific trauma was created or where this one wound comes from, while you can just simply change it and be better from this point on, it's still important you understand what is going on in your inner world in order to act accordingly and fully heal. It's important for you to understand what is going on within you, what the problem actually is, for you to react, to respond. Respond is a better word. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're feeling anxious or stressed, and instead of pushing that feeling away or distracting yourself, awareness invites you to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Where is this coming from? What is my body trying to tell me? Okay, 3 questions. And awareness is the first step to healing because it helps you become more conscious of the emotions, of the beliefs, and the patterns that are driving your behavior. Okay, let me just take a sip of water. Okay, so what we're going to talk about next is the awareness of the body. So it's important to note that awareness isn't just about your thoughts and emotions. Okay, it's also about your body. And our bodies are constantly giving us signals about what's going on inside. But most of the time, we're just too busy or distracted to even pay attention, right? So, for example, you might notice that your shoulders are always tense or that you often feel a knot in your stomach when you're stressed. Maybe you get headaches, maybe you get migraines, maybe you feel exhausted after spending time with certain people, whatever it is. But these are all signs that your body is trying to communicate something to you. Because becoming aware of your body's signals is a key part of your healing process. Your body holds onto emotions and memories, and if we don't pay attention to these signals, those emotions can get stuck. They can create physical and emotional blockages. And that's where more problems come in, okay? Now, on a side note here again, it's not about turning back into the woke shit and acting all, my body's telling me not to go to the gym today because I'm feeling tired, or my body is kind of craving fast food right now. Or my intuition is telling me I should lay in bed all day and eat shit and binge watch Netflix because that's what I deserve and just take the day off. Like, no, That's not your body, that's your ego. That's your laziness. Those are your patterns. That's not your body telling you. That's just you being a lazy bitch again and using spiritual wording to bypass your toxic and unhealthy patterns and behaviors. And you use it as an excuse so that other people validate your feelings because you seem like you are aware of what you're doing and where the feelings come from. When in reality, you're just making shit up because you know a few fancy words. But people nowadays accept that. And that's what I mean by that whole love and light and woke movement crap that makes my skin crawl. I hate that. Okay? Don't do this. Don't be a part of that because it's not true. It just allows you to bypass more of your shit. And it doesn't serve you to bypass more of your shit because you're just gonna get more shit. You attract what you are. That's what it is, okay? So it's not being positive, it's about being what's in you. Because if you are love and light and positive, you don't attract, you still attract what you are, which is crap inside, which is pain inside, which is hurt inside, which is unhealed wounds, unconscious and unhealthy patterns inside. Okay? Now, the second part to this is acceptance. And awareness without acceptance only leads to frustration. Healing requires us to accept where we are, even when it's messy and uncomfortable. And like I said before, it's about meeting yourself where you're at. Okay, accept where you are at. If you're not over that person yet, yes, you could have been over them a few years ago, but that's not the case. So just meet yourself where you're at. Just accept that you're not there yet. Okay? This doesn't mean that you're giving up. It also doesn't mean that you're tolerating things that don't serve you, that you're just accepting everything. It means that you recognize the reality of the present moment without judgment. So without acceptance, you stay stuck in self-rejection and constantly wishing things were different. Okay? Acceptance is powerful because it stops the internal battle of between where you are and where you think you should be. Acceptance is about meeting yourself exactly where you are without judgment and without resistance. Okay? It's that surrender aspect in spirituality. So it's about acknowledging the truth of your current emotional state, no matter how messy or how uncomfortable or how shitty it may be. When you accept your feelings, your wounds, or your current reality, you simply stop wasting energy fighting yourself. Okay, and when you stop fighting yourself, you create more space for healing to begin. And again, I have a bunch of side notes today. It's not about accepting that you simply are the way you are and you can't or ain't ever going to change it, or you can't help but being toxic. You were born this way, or I'm just this way because of my dad or my mom, whatever. I am this way because I got mommy issues and daddy issues, so that excuses my behavior. Again, that's just more woke movement bullshit. It shouldn't be normalized because it's not normal. It's common, but it's not normal because you can change. I did, so you should be able to. You are able to for yourself, but also for the sake of people around you, for your family right now, and for your future family. You better change. Do yourself and them a favor. Because believe me, life's better when you do. So, acceptance doesn't mean that you're resigning yourself to a life of suffering, right? It doesn't mean that you will never grow or change, but instead, it actually means that you're letting go of the need to control or force your healing process. You're allowing yourself to be exactly where you are, and in doing so, you create a space for healing and growth to happen naturally. So think of it like this. Imagine you're holding a beach ball underwater, right? You're using all of your energy to keep it down, but the second you release it, it comes rushing up to the surface, right? We've all done that. And it bangs in your face. No, I'm kidding. That's what happens when we suppress our emotions or reject our current state. The more we fight it, pressing it down, the more we hold onto it. But in the moment we accept it, we allow it to rise and move through us, right? So, I used to be somebody who resisted my emotions constantly. So I thought that crying when I was feeling sad meant that something was wrong with me. So I would try and push those feelings away. I would suppress the tears so others wouldn't judge me for crying. But the more I pushed, the stronger the feelings became. And it always felt like such a pressure inside of me that would make me explode at any given moment, right? And it wasn't until I started practicing acceptance that it's okay to cry that I realized that it was really okay to let my emotions run, to let my tears out. These emotions weren't something to be ashamed of. They were my healthy outlet. And I'm not talking about crying over every little shit, right? But I mean those moments specifically where that pressure inside of you, those feelings that need to be released, and for me, that was through crying most of the time. Once you do that, you just feel so much better because it's a healthy outlet. And once I accepted that, it stopped having so much control over me. So I was able to learn how to process my feelings through that and move forward with more ease after. Okay, I also learned not to care what anybody said because people are going to criticize you. I'm still getting criticized for crying a lot. But that is the way I let out my emotions. So if we are like that, I recommend you do that. If you're not like that, find other healthy outlets, right? So back to acceptance. It's not a one-time thing, right? So it's an ongoing practice like healing is. So there will be moments when you find yourself resisting to your emotions and judging yourself for where you are or wishing things were different, right? And in those moments, you have a choice. You can either continue to resist or you can practice acceptance. And that is where you have to become aware. So you can make that choice. So you can say to yourself, this is where I am right now, and that's okay. I'm meeting myself where I'm at, and I'm going to do better from here. Because remember, healing isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming more compassionate with yourself, especially in the moments when you feel at the least deserving of that compassion. Okay? So again, just remember that awareness and acceptance are the foundation of real healing, because without it, you wouldn't even know where to start, right? So awareness brings light to the emotions, the patterns, the beliefs that we've been avoiding, and acceptance creates the space for those emotions and patterns to exist without judgment. And then it's on you to change them. So together, they will allow you to heal from a place of wholeness rather than from a place of trying to fix yourself, still feeling broken. Okay, so healing is not about becoming someone else, but it's about becoming more of who you already are underneath. The more you practice awareness and acceptance, the more aligned you become with your true self. Okay, so again, pen and paper. I have a few more questions for you. So, first one is, where in my life have I been resisting my emotions or my current reality? Where in my life have I been resisting my emotions or my current reality? Second one, what would it feel like to fully accept myself as I am right now? And the third, what emotions or patterns am I becoming aware of that need my attention? Got it? Okay, you can stop here and reflect on those. In the meantime, I'll move on. So now we're ready to explore the next crucial step in the healing process, which is release. So awareness opens the door to healing by helping us recognize what we're holding on to, and acceptance allows us to meet ourselves with compassion without judgment, right? But healing requires more than just seeing and accepting our wounds. It requires us to release them, right? To change them, to let go of the emotions, the beliefs, the patterns that no longer serve us, just so we can create space for something new. So we can create space for the new beliefs, the new patterns, the healthy patterns, the better emotions or controlled emotions, right? So first, let's talk about what it means to hold on to emotional baggage. Because many of us carry around unresolved emotions like, let's say, sadness or anger or fear, guilt, shame, all the common ones, sometimes without even realizing it, right? And these emotions, they become invisible weights that hold us back. They drain our energy and they keep us stuck in patterns of self-sabotage or fear, right? But here's the thing. Just because we don't acknowledge these emotions doesn't mean they go away. I've mentioned it earlier. Unexpressed emotions, they don't disappear. They get stored in our bodies, in our minds, in our hearts. And think about it like this. When you suppress your emotions, it's like shoving them into a closet and slamming the door, right? Like I said before, you put them in a box, you put them in a closet, you store them away, a drawer, whatever, but you push them far away. But over time, that closet gets so full that things start spilling out, or that the door explodes and it all comes running out, falling out. It might show up in your life as anxiety, as constant stress, as tension in your body, maybe in worst cases, even physical illness. Regardless of how it shows up, there's many different physical symptoms, even a depressional phase, maybe. But I think the most constant one is anxiety and stress, right? You can only suppress emotions for so long before they start affecting you in other ways. You have got to realize that. Okay? It doesn't matter how it shows up, but it will show up. I can tell you that much. All right? So, for example, I remember a time in my life where I was carrying around a lot of unexpressed anger. And again, just like before in my examples, I wasn't fully aware of it. I just knew that I felt on edge all the time, right? So I would snap at little things. I would get frustrated easily. I felt this constant tension in my chest and shoulders, and it didn't matter whether that was with my mother, whether that was with my sister, with my friends, with my boyfriend at the time, with just people around me. Okay? It didn't matter who it was. And I kept telling myself, it's fine, I'm just stressed. But deep down, that anger was sitting there and it was just waiting to be released, right? It wasn't until I allowed myself to feel that anger and work through it and really sit with it to really let it out that I experienced relief. Okay, I cried, I yelled, I journaled, I let it all pour out. I did all of the exercise practices that you could think of, breath work, everything. Writing it down, really getting clear about what I'm feeling and where it's coming from. And the difference it made in my emotional and physical well-being was insane, let me tell you that. And that's what I want to talk about also, the power of letting go, right? Releasing those unexpressed emotions isn't about dwelling on the past or getting stuck in your pain. It's about setting yourself free from the weight you've been carrying. Now, why is emotional release so essential for healing? In my opinion, emotional release is one of the most critical parts of the healing process because it allows us to let go of what's been holding us back, right? That's what you want. either change a behavior or release something. So imagine trying to climb a mountain with a heavy backpack filled with rocks, right? Each step is going to feel like a struggle, and you can barely make progress. But now imagine taking off that backpack and removing those rocks one by one. And suddenly the climb becomes much lighter, much easier, and much more enjoyable. And that's what happens when we release unexpressed emotions. We lighten our load and the journey becomes less of a burden. Okay, because the healing journey can be very fun. Yeah. But many of us are afraid to release those emotions. And why is that? Because we've been taught that emotions like anger, like sadness, like grief, they're all negative. We've all been told to keep it together, to stay strong, to avoid being too emotional, to avoid being too dramatic, to express ourselves. Society often praises people for being so stoic and composed, but that mindset can be toxic when it comes to healing. And I'm all for being stoic, being balanced, being composed in critical moments, right? But only in waves, right? Only in, how do you say it, specific amounts. All right. So here's the truth. Emotions are neither good nor bad. Okay? They are simply energy. And they need to move through us in order to be released. So if we hold on to emotions, they get stuck in our bodies and they manifest as self-sabotage, they manifest as pain, as illness, as mental distress, like I just said, anxiety, just being constantly on edge. Releasing those emotions isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. Okay? So I don't ever want to hear again that emotions make you weak. Only uncontrolled emotions make you weak. But if you gain control over them and release them in a healthy manner, that's courage, that's strength. How many people do you see do that? It's an act of courage to say, I'm ready to let this go. I take responsibility. I'm ready to heal. I'm overcoming this. Does that sound like somebody who's weak? No. So, one of the most important things to understand here about emotional release is that emotions don't just live in our minds, right? I've cut into it before, they live in our bodies. So when we experience intense emotions, our bodies react physically. So have you ever noticed how your shoulders tense up when you're stressed, right? Or how your stomach feels knotted when you're anxious? That's because our emotions are stored in our muscles, in our tissues, and even in our cells. Okay, and when we don't allow ourselves to process and release those emotions, they become trapped in the body. And over time, this can lead to chronic tension, to head noise, headaches, digestive issues, and other physical symptoms. It's no coincidence that many people are dealing with long-term emotional pain also experience physical symptoms like fatigue, joint pain, unexplained aches, overall pain just waking up, or even more severe illnesses. Dealing with anxiety, dealing with depressional phases, dealing with feeling physically exhausted, feeling physically lazy, and there's no drive within us. Okay, your body reacts to what's inside of here. And this is why movement and body awareness are such powerful tools for emotional release, right? When we move our bodies, whether that's through yoga, through dance, through gym, through cardio, stretching, or even just walking, we're helping to release the emotions that have been stored in our muscles and tissues. And this is why you might feel like crying during a yoga session or feel lighter after a long walk. all right? Your body is releasing what's been held inside. It's energetic. It's being let out. When you do sports and let's say you play handball or you play basketball, the moment you throw that ball, you release energy, right? You do it with power. When you dunk in basketball, when you score a goal in soccer, there's power behind it. You can let it fuel into your success, right? You can let it fuel into something you're good at. And I'm not talking about in a violent way, but in a healthy outlet way. Okay? Release those emotions. So, another part, again, of emotional release is the expression. So, releasing emotions isn't just about becoming aware of them, it's about allowing yourself to express them fully. All right? Whether that means crying, screaming, or writing, or sitting down, sitting with it, sports, hobbies, or talking to somebody, emotional expression is how we release the energy that's been pent up inside. Okay, like I just said, with all of the examples, you let it fuel into your success. You just release the energy. It's a release of energy. Okay. And so often we avoid expressing our emotions because we're afraid of being judged. We think, I don't want to cry because people will see me as weak. That's what I've been like in the past, right? I suppressed my crying because I was so scared of what people would think. Or I can't show my anger because I don't want to upset anyone. But what if I told you that expressing your emotions is one of the most powerful ways to heal? What if I told you that releasing that pain, that anger, that grief, that insert your thing is what will set you free? So emotional release is a process, right? It's not something that happens all at once. It's not something you can force. It happens in layers, just like healing over time and over practice as you become more aware of what you're holding on to and give yourself permission to let it go. Okay, again, healing is not about perfection, it's about progress. And each time you release an old emotion, an old belief, or an old story, you're making up space for something new. That is another takeaway message for today. You're making up space for something new, something lighter, something more aligned, something more empowering. New beliefs, new patterns, new habits, new thoughts, new behaviors, new actions, new environments, okay? New experiences. That is what you're opening yourself up to when you heal. Now, again, pen and paper. Some more questions. What emotions have I been holding on to that are ready to be released? Second one, what beliefs or stories am I telling myself that no longer serve me? And the last one, what practices or tools can I use to help me release these emotions? Okay, now we've already covered a lot. So we've covered the power of awareness, we've covered acceptance, release, and by now you're starting to get a sense of how healing works, right? On multiple layers. So emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, you got great insights. Now we're going to dive even deeper into one of the most important aspects of healing, which are your core beliefs. Okay? Now let's start with the basics. What are core beliefs? Think of core beliefs as the subconscious scripts that run your life. Okay, the programs. They are the beliefs that you've internalized about yourself, about your worth, about your capabilities, about what you deserve. And these beliefs affect everything from how you handle relationships to how you approach success to how you view your own healing journey, whatever it is, right? It's a big spectrum. Many of us carry limiting core beliefs like I mentioned before, I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy of love, or life is hard and nothing ever works out for me, right? And because these beliefs are so deeply ingrained, because they're ingrained in the subconscious. And if you didn't know, the subconscious rules 95% of our life, of our everyday. They become the lens through which we view the world. Okay? You perceive the world as you are. And the problem is, most of us aren't even aware that these beliefs are running the show. Life's shit. Well, ask yourself why. We assume that the way we think and feel is just the way things are, when in reality, it's the result of beliefs that we have picked up over time. So let's get clear on something, okay? Your beliefs, they shape your reality. So if you believe deep down that you're not good enough, you will unconsciously act in ways that reinforce that belief, right? You will attract relationships and situations that make you feel unworthy. So you just confirm that belief, right? And you will sabotage opportunities that could allow you to grow. That's the way it is. You perceive the world the way you are. And you attract what you are. Both go together, right? But here's the good news. Just like you, beliefs can be changed. Okay, you have the power to rewrite these beliefs and align them with the truth of who you are, right? So before we get into how to shift your core beliefs, let's first talk about where they come from. Most core beliefs are formed in early in life. So usually during childhood, right? Usually during our first 7 to 10 years of living. And during this time, we're like sponges, right? So absorbing everything from our environment, our families, our caregivers, society, our friends, everybody, cartoons that we watch, everything. We internalize the messages we hear from the people around us. And these messages often become the core beliefs we carry into adulthood. Think about it. Some things you believe are things you've picked up when you were 4 years old. Are those really still your beliefs, or are they someone else's? For example, if you grew up in an environment where love was only conditional, where you had to earn love through achievements or good behavior, you might have internalized the belief that I'm only worthy of love when I'm successful or perfect. I'm only worthy of love when. I'm only worthy of love until, right? There's limitations to it. It comes with conditions. Or if you were constantly criticized as a child, you might have developed the belief that I'm not good enough, right? Again, limitation, which shows up in your relationships, in your career, and even in the relationship with yourself. Everywhere, your family dynamics, your relationship with God, your relationship with everything around you, right? And it's important for you to understand that core beliefs aren't necessarily facts. They are simply interpretations. They are stories. They are the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and how the world works. And just because you've held a belief for a long time doesn't mean it's true. In fact, let me tell you, many of the core beliefs that we carry are very outdated, very untrue, and actually can be harmful at times. But because they've been with us for so long, we don't question them. We think we believe them. We think that's us. We think, obviously, they've been with me for so long, they are mine. We simply accept them as part of our identity, right? Now let's talk about how these core beliefs show up in your life. Whether you're aware of them or not, your core beliefs are actually influencing your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your actions every single day. And they are like the filter through which you experience the world, right? So let me give you another example. Let's say one of your core beliefs is that I'm not deserving of success. And on a conscious level, you might set big goals for yourself or dream of achieving something great, right? But deep down, that core belief is running in the background. And because you believe you're not deserving, you might procrastinate, you might sabotage your efforts, or you might give up on things when things get tough. You might not even realize that this belief is behind your behavior, but it's there, influencing every decision that you make. And this is why identifying your core beliefs is so important. If you don't become aware of the beliefs that are shaping your reality, you will continue to stay stuck in the same patterns. It's a loop that you keep repeating. You will keep repeating the same cycles of self-doubt, of fear, of limitations, whatever it is. You keep repeating it. You keep running in circles. But once you bring these beliefs to the surface, like we said before, once you shine light onto them, you can start to change them. Okay, you can rewrite the script. And that's where the real healing begins. So I want to tell you there are some core beliefs that are incredibly common, okay, especially for women. And these beliefs are often shaped by social expectations, right? Cultural conditioning, or even just simply early life experiences through our peers, our families, our friends, whoever. So let me give you a few examples of limiting core beliefs that you might resonate with, okay? I'm just going to name 4, but there can be many more. So the first one is, I've mentioned it multiple times today, I'm not good enough. And this is really one of the most common limiting beliefs, and it shows up in many different ways. So you might feel like you're not smart enough, not attractive enough, not successful enough, not worthy of love or happiness, whatever it is. This belief often leads to perfectionism or people-pleasing or even self-sabotage, right? It's a very common one. The second one would be I'm unworthy of love. So if you've experienced rejection, if you've experienced abandonment, or like I said before, conditional love in the past, you might carry that belief that you're not lovable, right? And this belief can make it hard for you to open up in relationships, trust others, or receive love. And I'm talking about every kind of relationship. I'm talking about the relationship with yourself. Are you really showing yourself love and trust? Because I don't believe so. Are you really open and honest with yourself? That leads to you acting the same way in romantic relationships, in relationships that are friendships, in the relationships with your family, so family dynamics, in the relationship with God, and in the relationship with everything else around you. Right? You are acting accordingly to your belief. The third one I'm going to mention is life is hard. Right? Life is shit, life is hard. Some people grow up in environments where struggle is the norm. So they internalize the belief that life is going to be a challenge, that nothing comes easy, and that success or happiness is out of reach. And this belief often leads to feelings of hopelessness or victimization, right? You know, that victim mentality of poor me, poor this, poor blah, blah, blah. And you're acting accordingly to that belief again. But then you see overachievers or great personas nowadays that came from nothing, where their life was really hard. Do you see the difference? They are not living by a victim mindset. Otherwise, they wouldn't be where they are now. Take a David Goggins, for example, and Michael Jordan, Oprah. People like them came from nothing. They had hard lives, but they didn't let it define them, right? So why are you? The last one I'm going to mention is I'm too much or I'm not enough. All right, different than I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. And these really are two sides of the same coin. So you might feel like you're too much, you're too emotional, too needy, too dramatic, too intense, or not enough. Not smart enough, not talented enough, not worthy enough. Regardless of what it is, these beliefs often lead to feelings of inadequacy. all right, and low self-worth. So you're not really secure in yourself. Now, I want you to take a moment to think about which of these beliefs resonates the most with you. Do any of them feel familiar to you, or have you ever noticed yourself acting in ways that reinforce these beliefs, right? Obviously, there are more, but I feel like these four are really the four that all of them can be narrowed down to, right? They're very common. Now that we understand the power of core beliefs, let's talk about how to identify them in your own life. And as I mentioned earlier, many of these beliefs are unconscious, right? So they are running in the background and they are influencing your thoughts and your actions without you even realizing it. So the first step in shifting these beliefs is to bring them to the surface, right? So to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this certain situation? The story you're telling yourself is often a reflection of your core beliefs. Okay, for example, if you're struggling in relationships, you might be telling yourself, I always attract people who don't value me, or I'm not worthy of love, or we all know this one, all men are trash, men ain't shit. If you're feeling stuck in your career, you might be telling yourself, I'm not good enough for that promotion, or success isn't meant for people like me. See the victim mentality, see the low self-worth, see the low self-belief. Whatever it is coming from within you. It's time to shift your belief from something negative to something positive. If one of those are your beliefs, you have some internal work to do. Especially the girls that say all men are trash. Because if that's your belief, that's all you're going to attract. Because believe me, the moment I changed that belief, the same week, my person showed up. And I'm still with that person than I was 2 years ago. The second I changed all of these beliefs, everything in my life aligned. Think about that. And that's what is automatically going to happen for you if you choose that. But in order for it to happen, you need to choose it. You need to choose yourself. You need to change. You're not good the way you are. Otherwise, things would be working out. Okay? Again, take pen and paper out. A few more questions before we get to the end. What limiting belief have I been holding on to that no longer serves me? Second one, where did this belief come from? And is it really true, or is it just a story I've been telling myself? Be honest. Third one, what new and empowering belief am I ready to embrace that will support me on my healing journey? And with these, you can do it multiple times, right? You don't just have one limiting beliefs. If your life is a certain way, you're full of it. You're full of them. Okay, there's more than one limiting belief. Try and find them. Now, I want to take a moment to remind you of something important, which is healing is not a destination, but it is a whole journey, right? I mentioned it in the very beginning of the session. And often when we start the process of healing, we imagine that one day that where we will arrive at a place where we're completely healed, where we no longer feel pain, we no longer face challenges or experience emotional turbulence. But the truth is, healing isn't something you check off a to-do list. It's not a finish line you cross. It will never be, no matter how much or how deep you're into healing, right? Healing is a lifelong process. I've been on this journey for 4 years now. Okay. And I would say only 2 years ago was really where I began to dig deep. So if you've done healing for less than 2 years, You're not even you're not even at real healing yet. You can be if you do my courses and my classes, if you do the work. That's why I'm there. I want to help you speed up your healing process, right? You don't have to take years and years and years to change so many beliefs. You can do it within a year, all right? But it's a journey of self-discovery, of growth, of transformation that unfolds over time and over practice, right? And sometimes in ways we don't even expect. And there will always be new layers to uncover or new lessons to learn and new levels of awareness to reach. But that's the beauty of it. Each step you take in your healing journey brings you closer to your true self. And with each layer you peel back, you gain more clarity and more peace and more empowerment, right? So, one of the most challenging aspects of healing is learning to trust the process. All right? We live in a world that values instant gratification. We always want immediate results, immediate changes, immediate reactions, immediate, you name it, insert your thing. And as soon as something doesn't work or change right away, we give up. We try something for 2 weeks and it didn't work. Okay, this ain't shit. I'm not doing that ever again. Do you know that it takes 60 days alone to change a habit? How long do you think it's going to take to change a limiting belief that you had for the past 20 years? Do you really think that's going to change in 2 weeks? Babe, I'm sorry, that's delusional. And it can be frustrating when healing doesn't happen as quickly as we want it to, right? But healing doesn't follow a strict timeline. It unfolds in its own time, and often the biggest breakthroughs come when you least expect them. All right, it's all about surrendering. And as I've said, sometimes you can change something like this, and then other times you have to revisit that shit multiple times over the course of weeks, of months, of years, right? The goal is to make it as quick and easy as possible, but if you're just starting your healing journey, you cannot expect that. You can push yourself and you can become better really quick. But let me tell you, the first weeks and months are going to be tough, regardless of who you are. It's a lot to unpack. So trusting the process means letting go of the need to control or wash your healing journey, right? It means that you're recognizing that even when it feels like nothing is happening, you know that healing is still taking place beneath your surface. And just like a seed that's planted in a soil, right? Your healing journey requires patience, requires time and practice and nurturing. And you may not see the results right away, but that doesn't mean that the growth is not happening, right? And I'm going to give you an analogy, one that I always orientate myself with. And it's a very, very basic one, but I still love it. So think about a caterpillar transforming into a butterfly, right? During the process of the metamorphosis, I think that's what you call a process. Yeah, metamorphosis. The caterpillar dissolves into what seems like chaos inside a cocoon, right? If you were to look at a process midway, it might seem like nothing good is happening, just confusion and a mess, right? But in reality, something beautiful is being created. It's the same way with your healing. There may be moments of discomfort, there may be moments of confusion, of emotional chaos, but trust that something beautiful is emerging from it. Right? So, patience is another key component of healing. And often we want to hurry through the uncomfortable parts to get to the other side as quickly as possible, right? We want to hurry through the shitty times. But healing cannot be rushed. And the more you try to force your healing, the more resistance you create. And that is the complete opposite you want. You want to surrender, you want to accept, you want to let go, right? So true healing requires you to slow down and just be present with what is. Again, meeting yourself with where you're at. So it requires you to honor the process no matter how long it takes. All right. Like I just said, surrender to it. And patience also doesn't mean sitting back and doing nothing, right? It means that you're actively engaging with your healing journey while trusting that it will unfold in the right way. So you keep going, you keep putting in the work, you keep working. You keep uncovering more patterns and more beliefs and working towards what you really want and who you really want to be. Like I said, time alone doesn't do shit. You need the work. It's a whole process. You need to practice. Time will pass regardless, but it's your effort that makes the difference. It means being present with your emotions, listening to your body. Remember my side note from before in regards to that, and allowing each layer of feeling to reveal itself when it's ready. All right? Now, a few more questions before we're done. First one being, what have I learned about myself in this masterclass today? Second one, where am I still holding onto the need to control or rush the process? The third one you can divide into three, all right? How can I practice more patience, more self-compassion, and more trust as I continue to heal? Break it down into three. And the last one, what new insights have I gained today that I can take me with me moving forward? And here I would love for you to comment down below also what you've learned. What's your feedback? And as you reflect, I want you to remember that healing is an ongoing process, right? And you are constantly evolving if you take action. So I want you to take these insights that you gained today with you as you move forward. And I want you to trust that you are exactly where you need to be. But in order to get where you want to be, you need to put in the work. Okay, it's your healing journey. So that was a lot, but we're finally at the end of the masterclass on what healing really is. And I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for showing up for yourself in this space. And I hope today's session has given you some insight and some inspiration to continue on your path, okay? On your healing journey or to get your healing journey started if you haven't yet. And I hope you really take all of this information and let it flow right into something positive in your life. So get your work started, sis. It's the best you will ever do. It's never gonna stop, but I swear to you, it's the best journey I've ever been on. So with that being said, I just want to thank you again for being here. I'm sending you all so much love. I love you all. Bye bye.